This message is for everybody. So first, I'm going to break this message down into 4 points. So you can take a note if you want. It's up to you. It's also on the live stream, so you can always go back and watch it. It blesses you. Amen. So first and foremost, do not leave your place of safety. That's point 1. Do not leave your place of safety. So first we see that the son sets off to a distant country. But one thing you got to learn about this specific story is you notice that the father never stops the son.
Right.
The father does not stand in front of the door and barricade him and say, you know what, you cannot leave.
Right.
The father actually lets him go. It doesn't even say that the father had warned him like, hey, don't go there, something bad's going to happen. But the father completely let him go. The father gave him the share. The father gave him his inheritance. Even though he was not ready for it, the father still gave it to him. And it shows us that even sometimes when you're not ready for it, God will still give it to you. And yep. So God will still give it to you. And that's exactly what the father did to the son. Even though he wasn't ready, I'm still going to give it to you because there's a lesson to be learned in this story. See, and because normally you would think that most of us, I'm not a parent. I was going to say most of us parents. But a lot of parents, usually when your son or your daughter is about to go somewhere and you know it's a bad idea, you're like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You can liken the son in this story to an 18-year-old boy. Someone who just turned 18 and thought he could do whatever he wanted. You can liken it to that. Someone who just turned 18, you know what, I'm an adult now. If I want to go to the club, if I want to go out, if I want to, I don't need any accountability. See, when you leave the place of safety, you leave a place of accountability. Yeah. And that's exactly what the son was doing. He set off to a distant country to use all of the money that his father gave him. Wow. And you notice that a lot of times, parents will stop you right away. They'll warn you, don't do that, baby. I'm telling you, there's things you just don't want to do. You don't want to do any of that. But God, he still allowed the son to go ahead and leave. Because I bet the father probably had tears in his eye. But sometimes God does have tears in his eyes and he sees you about to make a mistake. But sometimes that mistake is for your good. Some things you go through are actually for your good. It's hard to understand, but all things work together for the good for them that love the Lord and called according to his purpose. So everything's going to work together, and sometimes God will use your mistakes to end up blessing you down the line. Amen. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. Amen? Rock bottom is necessary sometimes. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not fun. It's not a fun place to be. But think about it. Sometimes when you hit rock bottom, you learned your lesson not to ever do that again. Amen. And the prodigal son, he had to learn his lesson. So his father gave it to him and let him go. And sometimes God just has to let you go, but he knows you'll be back. And see, one thing you got to look at too is Satan desires to take you from your place of safety. See, how did he get the prodigal son? The prodigal son was in the father's house. He was in safety, but he got the prodigal son with the lust of the eyes. Scripture talks about the lust of the eyes, and what that simply is, it's a desire to possess what you see. Lust of the eyes, desire to possess what you see. So the son saw something in a distant country. He saw, I don't know how he saw it, but he knew that something was out there. He knew there was some kind of temptation. He knew there was something that he wanted to fill himself with. Therefore, Father, give me what's mine, and I'm going. That was called, give me what's mine. I may not be ready. I think I'm ready, but give me what's mine, and I'm going. And the devil gets you. He wants you to think about it. When he tempted Jesus, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. And lust of the eyes. He's always trying to lure you away. And see, one thing you got to learn is too, the devil wants you to think that the grass is greener outside of the Father's house. But the grass is never greener outside of the Father's house. The grass is never greener outside of safety. But when you're in safety, sometimes you get too comfortable in safety and you start to think that everything else is better on the outside when it's really not. It's not. It's the lust of the eyes. If you think about people in relationships, a lot of times they regret when they cheat on the person they're with because they thought the grass was greener. When they had something good in their marriage, but they thought the grass was greener. So now they found themselves in a jacked up situation because they thought the grass was greener. The grass is never greener.
Never greener. Never.
See, and that's what he perceives. So he sets off to a distant country. And see, one thing you got to learn and look at too is the prodigal son. He was not in a, even though he was at an age of adulthood because he could receive his share, he just wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to have all of that. And sometimes you're just not ready to have all of it. Sometimes you're praying for stuff, but you're just not ready to have it all. So don't leave your place of safety. Amen?
Amen.
Because the devil, he's real and he's alive. And he just wants to lure you out. And it starts with one thing, one thought. You know what? How can I get you today? Because the devil sees the things that you like. Every single time somebody walks by with that, shape that you like, the devil sees you looking. So sometimes the devil places what you're looking at outside of safety because he knows that, if I can just place it out there, I can start to lure him away. Who can I throw in his life just to take him outside of the faith? And he's doing it to all ages. Not just teenagers. Not just those that are 80 years old. He's doing it to all ages. How can I get you out of safety? But one thing I want you to learn that too. Point number 2, if you want to write it, is God is in control of every season.
All right.
See, if you notice when the prodigal son left, after he spent everything he had, all of a sudden a famine hit. Why would a famine hit after he spent everything he had? It's because the Father is in control of every season. So the Father, let me tell you something, the Father sent that famine. He sent it to bring him back. So on the son saying, you know what, I'm about to leave this. The Father's already, leave. But as soon as you leave, I'm still already chasing you back.
Amen.
And see, when you leave the house of faith, God already has a plan in place because he knows everything. So he already has a plan in place ready to bring you back. And that's exactly what's happening. A famine hit. Oh, he found himself having tons of money, tons of food. Now all of a sudden, he has to eat what the pigs eat. He has to eat the pods. See, and one thing you gotta look at is God will send trouble your way to bring you back home. And a good sign that sometimes you might be in trouble or you might be in a place you're not supposed to be is when trouble starts to hit you. When you look at Jonah, he said to Jonah, when he told Jonah, go to Nineveh and go preach to this wicked people. What did Jonah do? Went the opposite way, got in the ship, and guess what did God do? God created a storm. And in the storm that God created, it caused a lot of just issues to happen. And eventually, Jonah gets thrown over into the ocean, into the belly of a fish, a great fish. So God created that storm. God created that trouble to bring Jonah back to repentance, to bring Jonah back to where he should be. And God created that famine for the prodigal son to bring him back to where he should be. So God is in control of every season of your life.
Amen.
So one thing you got to look at, we're almost done here actually too. So the famine was for your good. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, the famine was for my good. And then say, God will create troubles to bring you home. See, and it's not a coincidence that trouble is in your life sometimes because God is just trying to fix something up for you. It's not a coincidence that your best friend left you because your best friend was an influence to bring you downhill. See, it's not a coincidence that your girlfriend dumped you because you just kept fornicating with her. It's not a coincidence that your boyfriend dumped you because you just kept fornicating with him. And God said, I had to sever it. I had to cut it off just so I could bring you back home. And God's goal is to bring you back home. So any way I can bring my daughter or bring my son back home, I will do it. If I have to send a famine, if I have to send a storm, if I have to cause them to be depressed, if I have to cause them to be sick, because that's what kind of love God has. That even when you don't want God, God still wants you. Even when you did not, that's a good place. Even when you did not want God, the love that He has still chased you. When you love something else, His love still chased you. When you wanted everything else, God's love still was there. What shall separate you from the love? Nothing. So when you look at it, see, and sometimes you think God is just punishing you. Oh, you're just punishing me, God. No. God is chasing you. He's chasing you because He wants you back home. Prodigal son, he wanted him back home. Famine, let me send that famine right on time. And the good thing about God is, when God is in control of every season, when He knows everything, He knows the exact time when to send it. So sometimes you think, whoa, this just happened out the blue. No, sometimes God sent it. Sometimes God sent it. Because aren't you glad that God would send a famine because He loves you? I don't know about you, but that's a good love right there. That God would just send something just to bring me home. I've been messing up. I've been doing wrong. But God would send something just to bring me home because He loves me. And is there a deeper love than that? Is there a deeper love than when you should be loving God and you're not, and you're loving something else, but God is still loving you? Is there a deeper love than that? You can't get that love from your wife. from your husband, your girlfriend, your father, your mom. You can't get that love from anybody else, but you can get it from Jesus.
Amen.
And so let me give you a quick illustration too. If you also, another story, if you're familiar with Hosea and Gomer, God told Hosea to go marry a prostitute. Go marry this prostitute. And then after they have kids and, life's probably going good, life's going cherry, all of a sudden the prostitute leaves and goes back to the prostitute ring. And then God says, go and love your wife who's being loved by another man.
Wow.
Go and love a woman who's being loved by another man. This husband had to go back and purchase his wife.
Wow.
Imagine that. I got some change in my pocket. I forgot exactly
candy.
how many shekels of silver it was. Maybe 35, I don't know. I'm not going to guess though. It was some shekels of silver. This man married. That's like me having to go back and get my own wife from another man. When you get married and you go in that covenant, she's yours. You're one. He had to go get his one from another man who slept with his wife. And so what did God do? Go and love a woman who's been loved by another man. So what does Hosea do? Swallows his pride, all the hurt he has, and goes. Here you go. Now give me my wife back. But God did this story to illustrate his love that he has toward the Israelites. And that's the same love he had for the prodigal son. That he would chase the son even when he left. And just like the Israelites, he chased the Israelites when the Israelites were acting like prostitutes, worshiping idols. What did God do? He gave an example of Hosea and Gomer. How God feels. How God feels as the Hosea, the righteous one, having to go back and chase and repurchase somebody who did not want to be with me. So that's the love of God. But one thing you also got to look at too is Jesus' arms are always open so you can come home.
Amen.
That's point 3. Jesus' arms are always open so you can come home. So we see the son. He finds himself eating pig's food. He finds himself eating pods. Pods. They're gross. You don't want no pods. You don't want the pigs eat. And the crazy part is, as a Jew, Jews don't even touch pigs. The pigs are unclean. So he found himself eating the things the unclean things eat. And see, when you run away from the house of God, you find yourself in such a desperate spot that you're eating something that is forbidden for you to eat. You're eating the junk. Before, you used to have prime rib, and now you're eating pods. You went from prime rib to pods because you wanted to get out of your safety.
Wow.
And that's what the prodigal son was. And then it finally says that he came to himself. He came to himself. And sometimes you just got to come to yourself to get back to the house. He came to himself. And he said, you know what? My father's hired servants, they have food to eat and they have food to spare. If they have food to spare, surely my father will take me back. I come to tell you, surely the Father will take you back.
Thank you, Lord.
The Father will take you back. The Father will take you back.
Thank you, Lord.
So he came to his senses and realized the Father will take me back. So what does he do? He swallowed his pride and he packed his bags to go home. And the beautiful thing about him packing his bags to come home is once he started already on the journey. See, sometimes you just got to start on the journey. You just got to take that step. And once he started on the journey, the Father saw him from a distance. And the Father ran to him, hugged him, and kissed him. Because he finally had his son back in his safety. And that's what God does. Once you take that first step, God already runs towards you. He's running towards you. And see, just because you're in the church doesn't mean you're always a part of the church either. So sometimes we think just because we're coming to service, that everything's all right. You can be in church and still need to run back to God.
Come on now.
And once you do, God is there. I got a little illustration for you. See, come here, young man. So, you face this way, right here. So what the Father does is, see, after the Father gives him a hug and gives him a kiss because he's happy he comes home. What does the Father do? He restores you back to the place. Thank God for restoration. God didn't just make him go back to square one. But the love of God restored him back to his sonship. So what does he do?
Hallelujah.
He gives him a robe.
Hey.
This is a representation of God's restoration.
Yes.
This is letting him know, you know what, son? You might have spent your money on prostitutes. That's what you spent it on. Use it on prostitutes and whatever else. You might have done all the nasty things. You could have done everything terrible. But guess what? I'm still going to restore you as a son. I'm not even going to make you like a servant. You're going to be a son. And then I'm going to get you a ring. He gets him a ring. And then he gets him sandals. He gives him everything he already had. And then he says, you know what? Let's get him a fatted calf too.
All right now.
You've been eating pods all day, son? Well, you came back over to safety. Let's get that calf for you. Let's restore you properly. Let's throw a party for you. So what does he do? He throws him a party. Because his son once was lost. And now he is found. His son once was dead. And now he's alive again. Jesus will restore you back to the place that you were at. And then he'll even throw you a party too. That's the love of God. So no matter what your walk is right now, no matter if you left off last week or yesterday, God will still restore you back. And even if you leave off in the future, we pray you don't. Remember in the back of your mind, seared in there, that you always have a place at the Father's house. You always have a place at the Father's house. You can always be restored. As long as you got breath, you can be restored. And then lastly, as we get ready to close, see, when God restores you, others will hate.
Oh, yeah.
Last one. When God restores you, others will be upset. The other son, his brother, was upset. He was mad. Dad, I've been here with you forever, and I didn't go use my money on prostitutes. How come I never got this? Others will hate even those close to you. The scripture says that the devil is an accuser of the brethren. I come to tell you, too, that sometimes man is accuser of the brethren as well. People in your corner, your brother, your own blood, when they see you get restored, not everybody's going to be happy. But don't let it stop you. Because it's just another tactic of the devil. The devil was in that other son. He arose through jealousy and pride. And self-righteousness. The other son, he was a jealous man. He should have been happy. And the father's probably questioning himself like, son, shouldn't you be happy? Your brother was dead. Your brother was in a far-off country, but now he's back home in safety. We should be rejoicing now.
Amen.
And so that's how it goes. People will crucify you, but Jesus will love you. People will hang you up. They'll strip you. They'll get you with cat of nine tails. They'll do it all. They'll do everything to you, but Jesus, he will love you. And he will restore you. Just like he restored that son, he can restore me, he can restore you, he can restore all of us. And if you know somebody else who needs this message, Jesus can restore you. See, Jesus will restore you. And see, sometimes you just have to just swallow that pride. And you just have to tell yourself, you know what? I have a place at my Father's house. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I have a place at my Father's house. I have a place at my Father's house. No matter what I did, I still have a place at my Father's house. And sometimes it's hard to get in your mind because you don't feel like you're worthy. Sometimes it's hard to come back because all the nasty stuff you did. You know what? God sees everything you did. He sees it all. And guess what? His love for you has not changed. His love for you has not changed.
Thank you, Lord.
So at this time, everybody just go to rise to your feet. The love that